Dealership lots across America are filling up with bikes that nobody wants. These once popular Japanese motorcycles are now gathering dust, crashing in value, and turning into financial traps. Before you throw your money at the wrong ride, here are 10 motorcycles you should absolutely avoid buying in 2025. Number 10. Yamaha V Star 250. In its time, it made the cruiser world accessible for riders who didn't want the bulk or complexity of a larger motorcycle. But in 2025, that old reputation no longer holds. This bike is now more of a warning sign than a recommendation. It's a throwback in all the wrong ways. Underpowered, outdated, and struggling to stay relevant in a market that has moved far beyond what it offers. Under the tank sits a 249 cubic centimeter air-cooled V twin engine producing 21 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque. That kind of output may have seemed adequate 15 years ago, but by today's standards it's underwhelming. It lacks the punch needed to keep up in traffic, making highway riding not just unadvisable, but outright stressful. It's fine for slow rides around town, but anything more than that quickly exposes its limits. This motorcycle weighs in at 325 pounds and features a basic suspension setup consisting of a conventional telescopic fork up front and dual rear shocks. The braking system is where things really start to fall apart. While the front uses a hydraulic disc, the rear is still outfitted with a drum brake, something rarely seen in modern motorcycles, and there is no anti-lock braking system available even as an option. That combination makes it not only outdated, but also a liability in emergency braking situations, especially on wet or uneven roads. The V-Star's ergonomics are basic but decent. The seat height is a very approachable 27 inches, and the wide handlebars give it a relaxed cruiser stance. But there are no modern touches to complement that comfort. The instrument cluster is analog only, offering limited information with no connectivity or advanced display. With a new price tag of $4,699, the V Star 250 might seem like a bargain at first glance, but its resale value is nearly non-existent. Riders trying to trade them in or sell them privately are finding little to no interest. Forums are filled with used listings collecting virtual dust, proof that this motorcycle has fallen completely out of favor. If you're looking for your first cruiser or a reliable second bike, skip this one. There are far better choices out there that won't leave you stuck with an obsolete ride that no one wants. Number 9. Suzuki SV 650. Once hailed as a budget legend, the SV 650 carved out a loyal following thanks to its torquey V twin engine, nimble chassis, and affordable performance. It was the kind of bike that bridged the gap between beginner and experienced rider with surprising ease. For years, it was one of the most recommended bikes in the middleweight naked segment. But now in 2025, that era is clearly over. This motorcycle has been left behind, and buyers are turning their attention to sharper, more advanced competitors. The heart of this bike is a 645 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin engine that delivers 73 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. That's still a respectable spec sheet, but power numbers are no longer enough to keep the SV in the game. It lacks ride-by-wire, traction control, quick shifting, or any ride modes. Its throttle is old-school cable operated, and it shows. In an age where safety, customization, and electronic refinement are standard even on budget bikes, this machine feels frozen in time. Tipping the scales at 433 pounds, the SV rides on a steel trellis frame paired with a conventional telescopic fork and a link-type rear shock. The braking setup includes dual front discs and a rear disc, all managed by a basic anti-lock braking system. While the handling is still decent for urban commutes and weekend twisties, it's no longer class-leading. Suspension tuning feels dated, and more modern alternatives now offer semi-active setups or more adjustable hardware in the same price bracket. The rider triangle is relaxed but sporty, with a slightly forward-leaning posture and a seat height of 30.9 inches. While it's still manageable for a wide range of riders, the lack of refinement in the seat cushion and vibrations through the pegs make it less comfortable over long distances. The dash is a basic LCD with minimal information, lacking gear indicators or smartphone integration that are standard on newer models. Priced at $7,999, the SV650 just doesn't offer enough to stay competitive. The resale market reflects this too. Owners trying to sell used SVs are getting lowball offers or no interest at all. Its time as a legend has passed, and in 2025 it's become just another unsold unit sitting quietly in the back corner of the dealership floor. If we've already saved you from wasting thousands of dollars, do us one favor. Hit that subscribe button. We call out what dealerships won't, and this is just the start. Number 8. Honda CTX 700N. Once billed as a forward-thinking commuter cruiser, the CTX 700N entered the market with high hopes, but the reception never really materialized. From the very beginning, riders struggled to categorize it. Was it a cruiser, a touring bike, a futuristic commuter? Even in 2025, the confusion continues, and that's one of the many reasons this bike has become one of the least desirable motorcycles on showroom floors. Powering the CTX is a 670 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine producing 51 horsepower and 45 pound-feet of torque. These numbers may sound usable on paper, but in real-world riding, the CTX feels underpowered and sluggish, especially in highway conditions where passing power is noticeably lacking. It tries to blend comfort and economy, but the lack of urgency and throttle response often leaves riders underwhelmed. Compared to other models in Honda's lineup, the engine tuning here sacrifices performance for docility. Weighing in at 475 pounds, the CTX uses a steel diamond frame that feels solid but uninspiring. The suspension system consists of a conventional telescopic fork up front and a single shock in the rear with adjustable preload. Braking is handled by a single disc on both the front and rear, equipped with an optional anti-lock braking system. While the hardware is serviceable, it is clearly designed for entry-level riders and lacks any of the modern refinement seen in competitive offerings today. Ergonomically, the CTX attempts to provide relaxed cruiser posture with forward-set foot controls and wide handlebars. However, this positioning often leads to an awkward middle ground. It lacks the stretched-out comfort of a true cruiser, but also falls short of upright commuter convenience. The seat is low at 28.3 inches, which does make it easy to flat-foot at stops, but long-distance comfort suffers due to minimal padding and unusual peg placement. Many riders report fatigue after only short rides, especially in the knees and hips. With a starting price of $7,999 in 2025, the CTX sits in a segment flooded with better options. Bikes like the NC750X offer more power, better comfort, and far more utility, especially with the inclusion of dual clutch transmission and improved tech. In a crowded market where identity and value matter more than ever, this bike continues to fall further behind. These bikes are fading fast. Don't let your gear follow. Link below has stuff that actually holds up. Number 7. Kawasaki Ninja 650. Once seen as a versatile middleweight machine, the Ninja 650 has now lost much of its appeal. It was designed to be a bridge between full-on sport bikes and practical everyday rides, but in 2025, the middle ground has shifted, and this bike failed to move with it. While it still carries the Ninja name, the experience it offers feels dated, especially when compared to the performance, comfort, and features riders now expect. The engine is a 650 cubic centimeter parallel twin that produces 67 horsepower and 48 pound-feet of torque. That power is spread across a wide rev range, delivering steady but uninspired performance. It lacks the snap of a true sport bike and doesn't offer the torque-rich grunt needed for satisfying low-speed rides. The result is a motorcycle that feels competent, but not exciting, especially when lined up against sharper and more focused rivals. This bike tips the scales at 430 pounds and uses a high-tensile steel frame. The suspension setup features a telescopic fork up front and a preload adjustable monoshock in the rear. Braking comes via dual front discs and a single rear disc with standard anti-lock braking system. While the chassis and hardware are adequate for casual riding, they're nowhere near the cutting-edge setups offered on newer machines in the same price bracket. The riding position is upright compared to super sports, but still leans forward enough to cause discomfort on long rides. Seat height comes in at 31.1 inches, making it approachable for most riders, but the overall ergonomics don't quite hit the comfort sweet spot. The bars are narrow, the foot pegs are a touch high, and the seat, while not terrible, lacks support for extended cruising. Priced at $8,499 in 2025, the Ninja 650 is facing fierce competition. Bikes like the Yamaha R7, Suzuki GSX 8S, and even the Kawasaki Z650 offer more excitement, better tech, and improved ergonomics. With rider preferences moving toward either lightweight sport nakeds or full-featured sport tourers, the Ninja 650 is stuck in limbo. No longer the sweet spot it once claimed to be. If you see one sitting at your local dealership with a flashy price tag, there's a reason it's still there. In today's market, this Ninja just doesn't cut it. Number 6. Suzuki GSX 250R. This bike was built with beginner sport bike riders in mind, promising a sleek look and manageable performance in a lightweight package. But in 2025, this once reasonable entry-level machine has been left in the dust by competitors that offer far more technology, performance, and value. On dealership floors across the country, these bikes are sitting untouched, their value slipping by the day. At its core is a 248 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine that produces 25 horsepower and 17 pound-feet of torque. While that might be acceptable for new riders just getting started, it simply doesn't stack up in the current market. With bikes like the Yamaha R3 and Kawasaki Ninja 400 offering stronger engines and better performance across the board, the GSX 250R now feels underpowered, especially on highways or open roads where acceleration matters. Weighing in at 392 pounds, the GSX 250R is still fairly light, but the suspension setup is outdated. It uses a conventional telescopic front fork and a basic single rear shock with no adjustability, making the ride feel stiff and unrefined on anything other than smooth pavement. The braking system includes a front and rear disc setup, but the lack of modern anti-lock braking system technology on earlier versions puts it behind competitors that now offer it standard. Its chassis feels narrow and flickable, which helps in low-speed maneuvering, but it lacks the poise and confidence of newer rivals. The cockpit and electronics are also behind the curve. While most entry-level bikes in 2025 come with digital dashboards, smartphone connectivity, and even beginner-focused ride modes, this model still relies on a simple analog gauge and a minimal instrument panel. With a base price of $4,999, it might look like a bargain at first glance. But with minimal technology, outdated suspension, and a lack of performance upgrades in years, this is a bike that feels frozen in time. For any rider in 2025, new or returning, there are simply better choices that deliver more power, more tech, and more value for your money. Let's keep going, because the next bike on this list is a beautiful machine that many had high hopes for. But in today's market, it's struggling just to stay relevant. Number 5. Honda CB1000R. This bike was supposed to be Honda's answer to the European naked sport bike scene, a machine that blended aggressive performance with stunning styling, and visually, the CB1000R delivers. It has the sculpted tank, the single-sided swing arm, and the retro modern cafe racer lines that turn heads in any parking lot. But under the surface, this bike is now being outpaced by its rivals in every way that counts. And in 2025, it's become one of the biggest letdowns in the Japanese naked bike segment. Powering the bike is a 998 cubic centimeter inline four-cylinder engine that makes 143 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque. That kind of power should be thrilling, but the delivery is tuned more for smoothness than aggression. Riders expecting sharp throttle response and raw excitement often describe it as too refined. And while smoothness isn't a bad thing, in a class where machines like the Yamaha MT-09 SP and Kawasaki Z900 offer more responsive feel and better electronics, the CB1000R starts to feel like a luxury it can't afford to be. At 470 pounds, it's not overly heavy, but it carries its weight up high. The suspension uses a separate function big piston fork and rear monoshock, decent hardware. But tuning is a bit too soft for aggressive riding and too stiff for daily comfort. Braking is handled by radial mount 4-piston front calipers and dual discs, but the brake feel isn't as sharp as many would like. The tech package is also lacking. The small digital dash feels like an afterthought with limited information and hard-to-navigate menus. While it includes basic ride modes and traction control, it lacks cruise control, advanced connectivity, or a full-color display, features that have become standard in this price range. In 2025, the CB1000R finds itself in a tight spot. It's too expensive for what it offers, too refined to be thrilling, and too outdated to stand out. Riders looking for value and performance are going elsewhere, and the resale numbers reflect that shift. It might be beautiful, but it's not the smart choice anymore. The next bike on this list is living proof that even a cruiser with heritage and loyal fans can fall hard when the market changes. Still watching? That means you get it. Motorcycle hype doesn't always mean value. Subscribe now so you never get blindsided by another overpriced, underperforming bike again. Number 4. Honda Shadow Phantom. Once a familiar face in dealership showrooms and known for its low-slung bobber looks, the Shadow Phantom has officially worn out its welcome in 2025. It was once marketed as an affordable cruiser with stripped-back styling and a promise of reliability. Riders looking for that blacked-out minimalist cruiser vibe often turn to the Shadow as a budget-friendly alternative to higher-end bikes. But in today's market, it is no longer a competitive choice. Powering the Shadow is a 745 cubic centimeter V twin engine that produces 44 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. While these numbers were passable a decade ago, they now fall well short of what's expected from modern cruisers in the same price range. The engine still relies on a 5-speed transmission, and throttle response feels soft and uninspired. The performance lacks any sense of urgency, and many riders report it feeling sluggish, even compared to newer mid-sized options from other manufacturers. The Shadow tips the scales at 549 pounds and uses a front telescopic fork combined with dual rear shocks. The suspension setup delivers an average ride, but it feels outdated compared to the smoother, more adaptive systems found on current competitors. The braking system consists of a single disc up front and a drum brake at the rear. Yes, a drum brake in 2025, which is an instant red flag for riders who expect modern safety features. Anti-lock braking system is still not standard on this model, making it feel stuck in another era. At a retail price of $7,999, the Shadow Phantom is hard to justify. It offers little in the way of innovation or excitement. It hasn't had a major update in years, and its outdated tech and underwhelming performance have caused interest to dry up fast. Resale value has taken a sharp downturn, and most used listings sit unsold for months on end, even with clean titles and low mileage. Riders today are looking for bikes that combine modern features, strong performance, and lasting value. The Shadow offers none of these. If you're considering a bike in this price range, there are better options with more power, updated technology, and modern design. The Shadow Phantom may have once been a sensible choice for budget-minded cruiser fans, but in 2025 it's become a ghost of its former self. Number 3. Yamaha Bolt R Spec. Originally introduced as a minimalist alternative to more expensive cruisers, the Bolt R Spec once found favor among riders who like the raw, stripped-back look of custom bobbers without the custom shop price tag. It offered a mix of retro styling and modern reliability wrapped in a compact, urban-friendly package. But here in 2025, the charm has worn thin, and dealerships are struggling to move them. At its core is a 941 cubic centimeter air-cooled V twin engine producing 65 horsepower and 54 pound-feet of torque. While the engine sounds great and delivers decent low-end torque, it struggles to compete with newer, more advanced rivals. The throttle response is dull above mid-range, and the air-cooled setup contributes to excessive heat in traffic or during warm weather rides. The Bolt R Spec weighs in at 542 pounds and comes with a conventional telescopic front fork and twin piggyback shocks at the rear. The ride quality is harsh on anything but smooth pavement. Potholes and uneven roads send jolts through the frame, and the rear shocks do little to cushion the rider. It features a single disc brake on both the front and rear, and although anti-lock braking system is available, it is not standard. The braking setup feels adequate, but far from inspiring, just like the rest of the bike's outdated components. The ergonomics are cruiser casual, with a low 27.2-inch seat height and mid-mounted pegs, but the seat itself is thinly padded and grows uncomfortable quickly. The riding triangle feels cramped for taller riders, and the lack of wind protection makes highway trips a chore. The gauge cluster is minimal, a basic circular analog speedometer with a tiny digital insert for trip and fuel. There are no ride modes, no traction control, and no modern interface to speak of. For a bike trying to appeal to today's riders, it offers very little in return. With a price tag of $8,699, the Bolt R Spec is no longer a value buy. There are too many competitors offering better performance, smoother rides, and more tech for the same or even less money. Its resale value has dropped sharply, and forums are full of owners trying to offload their bikes with little success. If you see one on the showroom floor, it's best to walk on by. Number 2. Kawasaki Vulcan S. When the Vulcan S first hit the market back in the year 2015, it was celebrated as a beginner-friendly cruiser that blended approachability with custom fit. The low seat, smooth power delivery, and adjustable ergonomics made it a standout for new riders who wanted a modern motorcycle without being overwhelmed. But in 2025, this once promising platform has become a relic. At the core of the Vulcan S is a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, producing 61 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. That setup is shared with Kawasaki's Ninja 650, but detuned slightly for cruiser-style delivery. It's not a bad engine. It's reliable and proven, but it no longer competes with newer platforms in terms of responsiveness or refinement. While the power is adequate for casual rides, it lacks the punch or modern tuning that today's middleweight riders expect. The Vulcan S tips the scale at just over 500 pounds and rolls on a steel double-cradle frame. It uses a telescopic front fork and a preload adjustable rear shock mounted diagonally, a design that helps it maintain a cruiser profile while still being functional. Braking is handled by a single front and single rear disc brake, supported by an optional anti-lock braking system depending on trim. It's functional but basic, and in 2025, that's no longer enough. One of the main selling points of this model was the Ergo Fit system, which allowed riders to choose handlebar, seat, and peg configurations to suit different body types. While clever, it has not been significantly improved since its introduction, and competitors have closed the gap with more intuitive, rider-focused ergonomics. The analog speedometer paired with a small digital screen now feels like a throwback, especially when compared to the full-color displays found on rivals. The price of the Vulcan S has also crept upward over time, now sitting around $8,499, depending on dealer markup and trim. For that kind of money, many riders are choosing newer, better-equipped options like the Honda Rebel 500 or even bikes from upstart manufacturers that offer more features for less. Resale value has suffered accordingly, and used units now sit for months on classifieds, often priced well below book value with few bites. If you're thinking about getting one because it looks affordable, take a closer look at what you're actually getting and what you're missing. Number 1. Suzuki Boulevard M109R. This machine once ruled the muscle cruiser world with brute strength and an unmistakable presence. The M109R was built to intimidate. Its oversized rear tire, long tank, and thunderous sound made it one of the most eye-catching motorcycles on the street. Back in its prime, it was a serious head-turner, ideal for riders who wanted power and style in equal measure. But here in 2025, the dream has faded, and this heavyweight monster is now one of the coldest bikes on showroom floors. Under the hood, the M109R packs a massive 1,783 cubic centimeter V twin engine. It produces a staggering 128 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque numbers that once made it a legend among power cruisers. On paper, it still delivers, but in real-world riding, the story is different. Without traction control, ride modes, or modern tuning software, the power delivery feels raw, harsh, and outdated. Weighing in at over 760 pounds, this motorcycle is not built for nimble handling. It's a heavy cruiser in every sense of the word, and that weight is felt at every red light, parking lot, and low-speed turn. Suspension duties are handled by a conventional telescopic front fork and a rear monoshock, tuned more for firmness than plushness. Braking is done through dual front disc brakes and a single rear disc, but with no anti-lock braking system standard, stopping such a large machine can be nerve-wracking in wet conditions. The M109R now lists for around $9,999 in most markets, but even at that price, it's a hard sell. It may look like a deal, but that's only because so many dealers are trying to move them. Resale value has plummeted and forums are filled with riders who regret buying one in recent years, struggling to resell even well-kept units. In 2025, the M109R stands as a warning. It may be a muscle bike on paper, but in today's riding landscape, it's a dinosaur. Heavy, thirsty, outdated, and lacking the rider aids we now expect, it's one of the most disappointing buys on the market. These bikes didn't just lose value, they lost relevance. If you care about your wallet and your ride, this list just saved you. Subscribe now, because next time it might be your dream bike that turns into a nightmare.